American Citizens Handbook, Episode 5, Congress, the House versus the Senate. Why did the founders create two chambers? Welcome to Spin Cycle America. I'm Coach. This isn't about political parties. This is about principle. It's about history, responsibility, freedom, and having honest conversations about the country we all call home. So let's get started. When you hear about the word Congress, you probably think about Washington, D.C., politicians, and maybe a whole lot of arguing, which is true. They do a lot of arguing up there. Seems like nothing's getting done, and nothing getting done the correct way or the way you want it to get done, or soon or fast. And let's be honest, there's certainly plenty of that arguing going on. But here's the question. Why did the founders create a Congress with two separate chambers? Why do we have a House of Representatives and a Senate? Some of you may know, and some of you may not. Some of you may care less. But here's the reason. And why didn't they simply just create one national legislator? And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Today, we're going to go back to the Constitution and find out a little bit about that. So today's topic is the legislative branch. Article 1 of the Constitution establishes Congress. Congress consists of two parts, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Together, they make up the legislative branch of the federal government. Many of you know that, some of you may not. But the two chambers were deliberately designed differently. And there's a reason for that. So this was due to the Great Compromise of 1787. This system balanced the competing demands of large states which wanted representation based on population, and small states which demanded equal representation for every state. And so we're going to go into this a little bit further, talk a little bit more about the Great Compromise here in a minute. But let's talk about the House of Representatives. So the House of Representatives was designed to be the chamber closest to the people. That's you and myself and everybody watching. They consist of 437 or 35 voting representatives. The representatives is based on population. That means states with the larger populations have more representatives. Okay, makes sense. While smaller states have fewer representatives. Many House members serve 2 terms. That means they face their voters more frequently. They get voted every 2 years. The idea is simple. The House should remain closely connected to the people, to us. The Senate, on the other hand, is completely different. The Senate is every state has 2 senators, regardless of the population or the size. So, for example, Arizona has 2, California has 2, Washington gets 2, Texas has 2. So it's not based on population. Everybody gets 2, regardless of their size. The founders wanted the states themselves to have equal voice in one chamber of Congress. Senators originally weren't elected by the voters directly, so they were voted by somebody else. Under the original Constitution, states legislators selected the senators. But that changed with the 17th Amendment, ratified in 1913, which established direct elections of the senators by the people. So the senators were served 6 years, 6-year terms, with elections staggered so that roughly 2/3 of the senators' seats are up for elections every 2 years. So it's kind of like they're elected every 2 years, or you see them every 2 years. So here's the Great Compromise. I was telling you about this a few minutes ago that we're going to talk about that. So why did the founders create this system? Well, because they couldn't agree on representation should work. I mean, you got the larger states complaining, and you got the smaller states complaining, and they just couldn't figure out how they're going to compromise. So the larger states wanted representation based on population. Makes sense, right? Bigger, they want representation. Smaller states wanted equal representation for every state. So the solution became known as the Great Compromise. This was reached during the Constitutional Convention of 1787. The House would reflect population, and they, of course, are elected every 2 years, and they're down by the people, and they see the people more often. The Senate would be given every state equal representation. Okay, so they get 2 for the Senate, and that became the Great Compromise, which made the Constitution possible. Without that compromise, the Constitution would never have been made possible. So here, and so that became known as. So there was another reason for this too as well. So the 2 chambers had another check, or equaled another check, which was kind of cool. And this becomes kind of a problem where people are wondering why it takes so long for bills to get passed or anything to get passed or done in the House. And here's why. So the House and Senate both participate in making federal laws. Okay, which is cool. We all know that, or most of us know that. But a bill generally has to pass both chambers in the same form before they can go to the president. So they have to be the same form. They can't be with one word. If one word is different, then they have to go back and change that word or get them so they're both the same. That creates another check within the legislative branch itself. The founders weren't interested in making government as fast as possible. They weren't interested in but they were interested in preventing too much power from one person or concentrated place or group from having too much power. They wanted to eliminate that. So sometimes it takes, or it may take, government a little bit of time to get something passed. And so that becomes frustrating. But sometimes slow is exactly what the constitutional system is designated to be. So if we look at what is going on in some of the states now, we're starting to see a shift in how people want a government to run. Okay, so look at some of these states in New York and in Seattle and different things like that. In some of those places, they're proposing or drafting up a new constitution. Some of these places, abolishing the Senate and doing away with the power of the Supreme Court as well. So can you imagine everything that the Supreme Court had voted for being overturned? I mean, think about that for a minute. You may not have liked a lot of things, or some things that the Supreme Court voted for or approved, but most likely you probably liked a majority of what they voted for, or a good chunk of it. But just imagine all that being gone and overturned. Your president and your Supreme Court now would be elected by Congress. Not you, by Congress. And you'd have no say-so in your government. I mean, it's gone. All that stuff is out of your hands. You don't get no say-so. There'd be no voting rights. You wouldn't vote for anything. You'd be just a pawn here, serving. You would be serving your government. Your government would not be serving you. Everything you did would go for the government. And you hear about all the free stuff. Okay, well, who's going to pay for all this? Who's going to pay for all that free stuff that's being promised to you? Who? And what happens to your retirement? Do you still get that? I mean, you're not working for it. Everything that you get goes to the government anyways. Um, you don't own anything. They own a majority of the corporations. There's no more free enterprise. Competition is gone. What have you have? What do you have left? Tell me. Somebody out there, just tell me what you have left. So here's my coach's perspective on all this. Um, Here's how I explain a lot of this to football players in the sense of what you have or how you'd explain this. You don't have one person in charge of everything on a football team, just like what I just mentioned. Okay, you'd have coaches, you have coordinators, you have position coaches, you have players in different with different responsibilities. Why? Because um, different people see different things. They work differently. They run different things. The founders understood this simply the same thing with government. You can't have one person run the entire thing. Different situations would have different interests, and those interests could check each other. That's not necessarily a flaw, that's the design. And this is why our current government works. Now, it's not perfect, but a single person or group in charge spells a problem for this nation. So, why does this matter today? Well, we hear people say Congress needs to get something done. Sometimes we hear that they're too slow or that they're not moving fast enough. And sometimes that's absolutely true. They're just like, what's going on? They seem like they're going on a break again or something to that effect. Okay, and that might be true. But we also need to understand that the Constitution wasn't designed to make passing laws effortless. A bill has to survive a committee consideration, a House debate, a House vote, a Senate consideration, a Senate debate, a Senate vote, reconciliation if the two chambers pass different variations of it, presidential action, and even then, constitutional questions can eventually reach the court. So that's a lot of steps, but those steps are also opportunities for debate, compromise, and accountability. So if we give all this responsibility to one person or group, can you imagine the laws that would or would not or never be passed? Think about that for a minute. Nothing is perfect, but the freedom that we have or that I want and the people who came before me and built this nation and fought and died for this nation is why I won't give it up. And you should not give it up either. So here's the Constitutional Corner. Article 1, Section 1 says this: all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. That's the foundation of the two chambers of Congress we have today. So here's history. A little bit more about it. The Great Compromise wasn't the only major compromise reached at the Constitutional Convention. The entire Constitution was the result of delegates with competing interests trying to build a workable government. A lesson. This lesson is important to understand. The Constitution wasn't created because everyone agreed. Oh, many people didn't, but they compromised. It was created because enough people were willing to work through their disagreements. That's something worth remembering in today's political government. This is another reason I will not give up the fight or the freedom to a group of individuals who are not born of this country and or wanting us to convert or to change our government from what it is today. Yes, it has problems. Don't get me wrong. There's things I disagree with, but there's things I do agree with. And that's what makes it stronger. So here's the verse today. Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors they succeed. Proverbs 15:22. Sometimes getting more voices involved makes decisions harder, but it can also make those decisions stronger. This makes our government work, and it makes a stronger nation. So here's the question of the day. Do you think the founders were right to create two chambers of Congress, or would you prefer one national legislature? And more importantly, why? Let's talk about this in the comments. Keep it respectful. You don't have to agree with each other. That's part of being America. But remember this. There's a group of individuals who want to overhaul our Constitution and only have a Congress in charge and basically a puppet president, meaning only one person in charge or one group of people in charge to make all of your choices, which means taking the voting out of your hands. So think about that for a while. So here's my challenge to everyone. Go to the official website for your U.S. representatives and your two U.S. senators and find out who represents you. What committees do they serve on? What legislative or what legislations are they currently working on? And how can you contact their offices? You don't have to agree with them, because you may not, but understand them. Find out. This is your right as a U.S. citizen. You're their constituents. Know who represents you, know what they represent, and actually know what they're working on. Is it something that you like or is it not? Understand them. That's citizenship. That's freedom. So here's my coach's salute. Today's salute goes to the Americans who participate in our government at the local, state, and the federal levels, and especially the citizens who take the time to learn about their government instead of simply complaining about it. You don't have to run for office. You don't have to belong to a political party. You don't have to agree with Washington, but you have to live here. Your voices matter. Use it responsibly. So here's my final whistle for today. Here's the lesson I want you to take away from today. The founders didn't create the government here where everybody gets exactly what they want, because you never do. I don't care where you're at, with work, whatever. They created a government where power is divided. The House of Representatives represents the people. The Senate represents the states. The president leads the executive branch. And the courts interpret the law. And the Constitution sets the boundaries. Is the system frustrating? Absolutely it is. And it is sometimes slow, you bet. But before we decide the system is broken, we need to understand what the system was designed to do. Sometimes the speed bump is there for a reason, and sometimes protecting liberty requires slowing the things down. You, me, and all U.S. citizens need to know and understand your rights and freedoms. You need to know what is happening to them, and you need to know when you're about to lose them. Learn about them. Learn about the third party that seems to be getting created. That is slowly gaining traction. As a U.S. citizen, you need to know and learn the truth. Understand your rights. I'm Coach. Thank you for joining me here on Spin Cycle America. Remember, this isn't about being perfect, because nobody is. It's about being responsible. It's about understanding where you're from, appreciating the freedoms we have, and doing our part to leave this country better for the next generation. You all have a great day. Take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and take care of each other. God bless you, your family, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. And I'll catch you all on the next episode of Spin Cycle America, and you all have an outstanding day.